Welcome to HB Reddit Stories. Today we will see stories of r/am I the a-hole. Am I the a-hole for refusing to hand over my grandmother's jewelry to my cousin who was promised it first? My grandmother passed away last year, and she left me, 24F, a beautiful jewelry collection in her will. Growing up, I was very close to her, and we spent countless weekends together where she would let me try on her pieces. It always felt like our little thing, so when she left them to me, I was deeply touched. Here's where it gets complicated. My cousin, 28F, let's call her Emma, insists that my grandmother verbally promised her the collection years ago, even though there's no mention of her in the will. Emma claims that the jewelry is hers by right because she was the oldest grandchild and used to model the pieces during family events when she was younger. She's even told everyone that my grandmother's decision must have been a mistake or made under pressure. Emma called me last week, demanding I hand the jewelry over to honor what she says was my grandmother's real wish. When I said no, she called me selfish and accused me of stealing what was meant for her. The family is now divided, with some saying I should just give Emma a few pieces to keep the peace, and others telling me to hold my ground because the will was clear. Emma is now posting passive-aggressive messages on social media, making me out to be the villain. I feel terrible because I don't want to cause family drama, but I also believe my grandmother knew exactly what she was doing when she left the collection to me. Am I the a-hole? Top comments. Not the a-hole. It sounds like your cousin is trying to scam you out of it since her only excuse is that she verbally promised it to her. Your grandmother left it to you in her will, which would have taken at least a little bit of consideration, so even if she did promise it to her years prior, she still ultimately decided to give it to you. OP replies. That's how I see it too. My grandmother had plenty of time to think about her decision, and she clearly chose to leave it to me in writing. It feels unfair that my cousin is trying to rewrite history now. Grab a bag of quarters. Search this sub for the word selfish. Every time that you read a post where the demanding party called OP selfish because OP wouldn't do something, put a quarter in a jar. Warning, do not play this as a drinking game. The will is dispositive. Ignore everyone's opinion, they weren't left the jewelry in the will, so they have no stake in this. Ignore Emma and her sour grapes posts. Learn while you are young that not every outburst warrants a reaction or response from you. The only one kicking up a familial fuss is Emma. Don't dishonor your grandmother by going against her express, written wishes. Not the a-hole. OP replies. This is spot-on advice. It's true that people throw around selfish to guilt others into doing what they want. I need to remember that the will reflects my grandmother's clear intentions, and giving in would disrespect that. Thank you for putting it so clearly. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother to stop coming unannounced and changing the locks? My brother, Chris, 27M fake name, moved in with my boyfriend, 28M, and I, 26F, 7 years ago. We took pity on him after he was kicked out of my childhood home for drug use and was sleeping in his car. At first, Chris and my boyfriend got along great. After a few years of living together, Chris became more reclusive and distant from us both. Chores were not being done around the house and I was getting sick of cleaning up after him and his negative attitude. 6 months prior to the end of our lease, I told Chris that he had to find another living situation. He did finally move out a few weeks prior to the end of our lease, and I thought we all agreed about splitting up shared appliances and valuables. One thing we did not discuss was our shared robot mopping device. We acquired this one day at my grandmother's house a few years ago. She was moving and offered it to all three of us as she would not be using it. So we brought that little robot home. This thing is nothing fancy, just a small device you fill with cleaning solution and attach disposable mop pads. Let me be clear, in the 4 years we have had this thing, Chris has not once paid for any replacement mopping pads. Never had even turned the thing on. It was always boyfriend or I splitting the cost of pads and setting this thing up to run nightly so we'd all wake up to clean floors downstairs. Chris hasn't returned his key because he's still slowly moving things out. It's been over a month now. He always showed up unannounced to our home to gather boxes and his belongings. Sometimes we wouldn't even realize he was there while we had been out. Last night boyfriend was looking for our little robot friend as we had just gotten new pads delivered for it. Turns out after going crazy looking for this thing and texting Chris, he did take it, claiming, "Yeah, he is mine." This was the last straw. We had been so accommodating to this man for years. I just can't believe Chris had the audacity to take our beloved robotic cleaning friend without a word. I have let Chris know that we are no longer comfortable with him coming by unannounced, and if he needs anything we will look for it ourselves. I also said he can return his key to the office and we will pick it up. His response? "Stop being weird, I don't want any of your trash crap, I already had all my useful grow equipment stolen anyways, stop texting me before you make me mad." The grow stuff referred to here is indoor greenhouse and hydroponics. Which was verbally agreed for an even split of materials since both Chris and boyfriend acquired the equipment together. Boyfriend ordered a camera that will be here tomorrow. I've contacted the leasing office to make them aware of the animosity between us and requested the locks to be changed. I just want to know, am I going too far? This robot is not at all expensive, but it's more about the principle to me. I feel disrespected. We all have to see each other next week for Thanksgiving and I know it will be awkward. Top comments. Not the a-hole. Your freeloading brother took the final step over the line. OP replies. I appreciate your reply, thanks for taking the time to read. I agree, he's a freeloader and an arrogant one at that. You took in a drug user. What did you expect? OP replies. I thought I had almost lost my brother, so that had probably clouded my judgment. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not allowing my foster parents to put parental controls on the iPhone my biological parents bought me? I, 15M, have lived with my current foster parents since I was 9 years old, but I've been in foster care since I was 6. I will call my foster parents Henry and Aaron. I got a new phone as an early Christmas present from my biological dad. It is an iPhone 16 Pro Max, which is the phone I wanted, so I am very happy about it. My previous phone was an iPhone 11 and it was bought by Henry and Aaron. On my old phone, Henry and Aaron had set up loads of parental controls on it, so I couldn't download any apps without them approving it. I couldn't turn off share my location, I couldn't change my passcode. It would lock everything except their contacts at 8 p.m. every night until after school, and they had a time limit on YouTube, so I could only watch it for 30 minutes within the time where my phone was unlocked anyway, and I could only go on websites that they approved off, like there was a list that I could go on and I couldn't go on anything that they didn't manually add to that list. These all really annoyed me, but whenever I asked for them to be turned off they told me that they bought the phone and so these were the rules. Now I was given my new phone by my dad on Monday and I haven't used it yet because they're telling me that I have to let them put the same restrictions on the new phone as they did my old phone. I said no because that isn't fair, I should be allowed to use my phone as my dad says because he paid for it. I said to them that my dad paid for the phone so it was his choice and that he doesn't want me to have those restrictions on. But now they've changed and said it doesn't matter who bought the phone, even though that was their whole point before. Now they're saying that because I am living with them I have to follow their rules, and the rule for having a phone in this house is that they put restrictions on it. I don't think that is fair at all considering they didn't buy the phone. I don't see how they can do this. Before I got home from school on Monday they took the phone out of the box my dad sent it in and set up all the restrictions, and now I'm trying to figure out a way to take them off. I am thinking about complaining to my social worker because it is not fair that they put these restrictions on my phone even though they didn't pay for it. Edited to add, I am not going to be on much longer because I am almost out of my computer time. Thank you everyone for your advice. Edited to add too, it's 8 p.m. now so I'm off. Thanks everyone for taking the time to talk with me. Top comments. OP not gonna say you are in the wrong because of your age. I am also not going to say your carers are in the wrong based on the information you've provided. I am coming from the position that I previously was a foster carer as well as a worker within the law enforcement system. Your biological father is making a power play here. You may not see it because generally speaking, kids in care tend to see even the worst parents as being on a pedestal. For whatever reason, you've been in foster care for the majority of your life. A good portion of that time has been under the roof of your current carers. Whilst I appreciate that at 15 you think you should be able to do what you want on your phone, you need to understand that your carers are most likely just looking out for your best interests. Your biological father, for lack of a better term, is throwing in a grenade. In my opinion, he may be doing this for a few reasons. To prove to himself or your caseworker that he is a good parent because deep down he knows he isn't. To drive a wedge between you and your carers in exactly the way it appears to have. Because he cares about you genuinely and thinks that getting you an extravagant gift will somehow make up for you being in care since you were 6 years old. Honestly, it could be a mixture of the above. Regardless though, he should have discussed such a gift with your caseworker and carers, if there is contact between him and them, to make sure it was okay, and so that he could discuss the rules surrounding usage of the phone with you. If you legitimately think that your carers are not doing what is in your best interests, then you should speak to your caseworker. Let them be the mediator as they are basically in charge. There are possibly also things occurring in the background that you are unaware of. For example, the court or department in your jurisdiction that deals with children in care may want contact with your birth parents to only occur when they are aware of it. Your carers could simply be following rules that a court or your caseworker has outlined to them. If you think that they are on some level being reasonable because they care for you, then perhaps sit with them and discuss how at age 15 you should have more freedom. This could look like having the parental controls but with less restrictions, or it could be without the parental controls but with your carers able to look at your phone/messages/photos when they feel there is a need and without notice. I.e., they know the unlock code to the phone. At the end of the day, it is about trust. Show them that you can be trusted with more freedom, then they'll likely be more willing to become more lenient as you get older. Try to make sure that regardless of how the conversation goes with your carers, that you keep your cool. Good luck. No a-hole here. They don't have a choice. The foster agency I worked with insisted that parental controls were on and were quite strict about what was/wasn't allowed. It's really common to prevent vulnerable minors being exploited, and if something happened to you while in their care, they could be prosecuted for not safeguarding you and also banned from fostering again. It sucks because this isn't your fault. It's not even that you're not trusted by them, they have to do this. The guidance for foster parents is insane, honestly. The amount of hoops you have to jump through to protect yourself from accusations are beyond belief. The "my bio dad should be the one to set the rules since he bought it" argument isn't going to fly, I'm afraid. He isn't your legal guardian and hasn't been for almost a decade. To lose custody of someone who is 6 and to keep it lost nearly a decade is a sign that the courts and the child welfare system don't see him as capable of making decisions like that. If you have rational reasons why some of their restrictions are too much, you can argue those. Maybe use this as an opportunity to renegotiate what controls are placed on it. Keep the location tracking as that's important for your own safety, even though I'm sure you hate it, and see if you can get them to agree to letting you be able to look at whatever websites you want, with the exception of adult websites, of course. Agree to keeping a passcode they know, but allow you to watch YouTube for longer. Give and take, that's the key here. Some you might win, some you might not. Giving them a chance to trust you, and give yourself a chance to prove you can be trusted. It does sound like they're a bit constrictive in your phone use, but I don't know you, perhaps you need those controls for whatever reason. Or perhaps, as I said, this is a chance for you to prove you're able to be responsible. Next story. Am I the a-hole for calling my husband selfish for eating a massive bowl of cereal? Throw away because this feels so ridiculously petty, I can't believe I'm asking it. Our kid, 6, has a favorite cereal, which is a branded chocolate hoop cereal. When full price it is 100% out of our budget, and so we are almost never able to buy it, and we buy her the cheap own brand alternative, which she likes, but isn't anywhere near as good. But when it's 3x cheaper, you make do. We went shopping a few weeks ago, and to my happiness they had 2 boxes of her preferred brand massively reduced to clear, making them cheaper than the own brand. So I bought them. She was thrilled. We've been gradually getting through it. I try to limit how much sugary cereal she has anyway, so generally she'll have a bowl of shred dice or bran flakes or similar and put the chocolate cereal on top. She's happy to do this because it makes the cereal last longer. We just opened the second box a couple of days ago. Well, this morning, my husband joined us for breakfast. Normally he wakes before us and so has already eaten before we wake up. He then poured himself a huge bowl full of the chocolate cereal. I was stunned, and immediately asked him what he was doing, and was he seriously eating that much? Here is where I am probably an a-hole. I shouldn't have commented in front of our kid. But he took me by surprise and I wasn't thinking. He shrugged and said, "Yeah, that it was a normal amount of cereal to eat, he'd run out of his cereal, and it wasn't a big deal. He also said he'd done the exact same thing yesterday. Having checked, I'd estimate he's had at least 1/3 of the entire box over those 2 bowls. I got annoyed and said that was unreasonable and kind of selfish. While he has every right to eat as much food as he wants, and has every right to eat whichever cereal he wants, I think having a huge bowl of expensive cereal which was bought as a treat for our daughter is completely unreasonable. I asked him why on earth he couldn't have mixed it with cheap cereal to bulk out his bowl because this particular cereal is unaffordable usually. He made a comment about that box being gotten on offer so it wasn't expensive, and when I argued that it wasn't the point, that buying another box of it would be expensive, he said, then we just won't buy another box. Our kid got upset, and then my husband snapped at me for saying anything in front of her, that it was my fault our kid was upset, and said that I had now ruined his day. He sulkily ate his gigantic bowl and then stormed off to our room in a huff. He also said that he earns most of our money so he can eat what he wants. Yes, he earns more, but we have an agreed upon food budget. If he wants to buy expensive cereal with his own money then he can be my guest, but he spends his money on other things and this cereal came out of our family food budget. Am I the a-hole for calling him out for eating so much? TLDR, husband ate 1/3 box of expensive cereal which was unofficially bought for our daughter. He is angry that I called him selfish for doing so. Edited to add, because a few people brought it up in the comments, yes, husband was fully aware this is daughter's favorite and was bought as a treat for her. The reason I said unofficially is because it was bought out of the family budget and wasn't like a reward or something. Not because he was unaware of the situation. Edited to add too, the box is supposed to contain 14 servings. Because she rations it, it usually lasts 3 or 4 weeks having it every day. Edited to add 3, our grocery budget for the 3 of us is about 40 to 50 pounds a week, approximate $50 to $65 according to Google. I don't see how I could possibly cut anything out. Top comments. Not the a-hole but his, I earn more, and the implied, so F you and my daughter, sure makes him an a-hole in my book. When money is tight or just needs to be budgeted, good parents often make do less to ensure their growing kids' needs, and occasional wants, are met. Many people can tell you as they got older, they realized their parents had been letting their kids eat most of the meatballs and drink the milk while they lived off the pasta and plain water. IMHO, your husband should be ashamed of himself. Not the a-hole, yeah, it's incredibly selfish behavior. I seriously don't get why he didn't think about his kid first. A lot of husbands seem to have this problem. It's like they think it's every man for themselves because it's only mom's job to put their kid first. Not the a-hole. He's setting a bad example. If you get your kid to stretch good things out, he should do it too. Otherwise, she's getting penalized for doing the right thing. Yes, life is like that sometimes, but shouldn't be within a family. Your husband was being selfish and also undermining your parenting by setting himself above the rules. It was important for your daughter to hear it called out instead of learning to be a doormat or that other people matter more. Not the a-hole. You didn't attack him. He attacked you and tried to blame you for his actions. He didn't even care if your daughter gets to have her favorite cereal ever again. His, I make more money than you, line was disgusting. That's a first little red flag. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share and subscribe the channel HB Reddit Stories.